Yakuma marunai titoi, kundai mandai medicina. Perkoi mandai wawai tito, kundai mandai medicina. Perkoi mandai warmitita, rai 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 rai.
This is manifesting in the lineage of Chavin, which was a great shamanic tradition that began in the Central Andes around 1500 BC and dissipated around 0 AD, around the turn of the millennium. Chavin dissipated into the civilizations that had arisen following its influence, and until that time it had been the preeminent pilgrimage destination of the ancient Andes, where people came from hundreds and hundreds of miles away on a sacred pilgrimage to this particular place. So what we have here is essentially a representation of the gallery of the Lanzón inside the sacred temple of Chavin. And the Lanzón is this obelisk that you see here, which is a replica, but a perfect replica in every detail, that serves as a relay point for the energy from the Chavin temple, which is transmitted here. And this completes a circle because the founders of Chavin, even though Chavin was a phenomenon of the Central Andes, the founders of Chavin came from the Amazon, as reflected in the components of the Chavin cosmology and the iconography, which primarily centers or revolves around images of the jaguar, frequently in a state of transformation between human and jaguar, and always accompanied by great serpents, which are modeled after the anaconda of the Amazon. And then the third icon of Chavin are eagles, which are also found in the Amazon, not in the Andes. So the iconography of Chavin is clearly derived from Amazonian origins. And the phenomenon of Chavin was essentially a blending of Amazonian, Andean, and coastal shamanism, consolidation into a consolidated cosmology, which was then disseminated to the masses over about 1,000 or more years of activity revolving around the temple. During that time, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of ancient pilgrims came to Chavin from the southern Andes, from the extreme northern Andes, from the coast, and from the Amazon. And there they brought their own way of celebrating ceremony, which became infused and integrated into the ceremonial style of Chavin. And they also brought offerings. So the Chavin manifested all of the central components of a true sacred spiritual path, which inspired people to make the pilgrimage, to bring offerings, to make sacrifices in order to do that, because they had to come over very, very rugged terrain from wherever they were coming from in order to get to Chavin. So it was it's considered by religious scholars to be one of the 7 great pulses of human spiritual consciousness to occur in the history of humanity. The other American pulse was what we call the Olmec pulse in southern Mexico, in Mesoamerica. There were 2 pulses in Africa, the Nilotic pulse and the Nigerian pulse. And then in Eurasia, there were the Mesopotamian pulse, the Indian pulse, and the Chinese pulse, all of which gave rise to the great religions of the world that exist today, or great philosophical traditions which are still practiced perhaps more regionally or more regionally than globally. So Chavin is one of those that's lesser known, but is now coming back into the awareness of the Peruvian heart and mind, because every Peruvian is essentially a descendant of Chavin. Chavin was not a race or tribe. It was a spiritual movement based on a shared consciousness, which was orchestrated by grand ceremony utilizing the sacred cactus Wachuma, and which took the original altar practice of in the use of Wachuma by nomadic hunter-gatherer peoples to another level entirely, because as Chavin took hold, new and innovative techniques for agriculture, livestock herding began to replace gathering and hunting, which enabled stable communities and villages to be formed, and consequently there was a rapid growth of civilization that produced a surplus of vital commodities, foods and materials for weaving and what have you, which gave people who previously had to spend every waking moment just to survive as hunter-gatherers, now have time to invest in other things. So that's when we began to see a flourishing of art, very creative art. All the Chavin art reflects the central cosmology of Chavin and revolves around jaguar, serpentine, and great bird imagery. Art, and also the further sophistication of ceremonial practices and ritual, and refinement of the technology of the sacred plants. And they did this by listening to the plants, and everything that they did came through the channel of communication with the plants, which in turn are directly communicated to a greater mind than any of ours. So the plants become a channel, a means through which we can find that same connection. And ultimately that's, if I understand all of you correctly, that's why you've come here. So that's what we're all trying to do, and there is a way to do it, you know. But we have to cooperate, you know. We have to cooperate and not compete. When medicine comes and it seems a little overwhelming, instead of fighting it, embrace it. Instead of backing away, lean into it. Lean into it and be strong. Be strong with heart. Love yourself. Have compassion and love for yourself, and you'll find that medicine has the same for you. And so does that which channels through the medicine. Now, let us all find a comfortable place, as comfortable as possible. We sit here, and if you will, just sit in a semicircle. And Don Rober and Carlos and I are going to sit here. We're going to make a circle.
Yama Shama Gunai Sita, Sachama Marunai Sita, Utai Mandai Medicina, Perpoi Mandai Wawai Sita, Utai Mandai Medicina, Perpoi Mandai Wani Sita. Da 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 da.